Hello and welcome to another night shift. My name is Yazil, and today we want to have a little break from our MMO, and so I decided to make a one game, one video tutorial, and today we're gonna do this Simon implementation, and let's just start it. We've hit the start button, the colors are coming up, the user follows the colors, and if we do something wrong, like yellow, red, green, the game is over. That's all we want to do, and let's start up that. So I started up Unity and made an empty project, and especially I made an empty scene, saved it under tutorial, and let's first build up our play window, and for that we just get a new 3D object plane. Let's make it a little bit bigger, like 3 here, and position it to 0 0 0. So get in the field a little bit, and we make a new material. Just right click, create material, and it's a standard black material for the plane. We're going for black, and you drag it just here inside, just rename it to black. So that's our background color, and then we need to have the player elements. So we create new, I take a cube and pushing it to 0 0 0, and Simon is in the square. I want to have them in a line, so I make this a little bit like 3, and of course we need a color from stardom, so we create material, and I start up with a yellow, I would think, and so yellow, and I want the start up color for the element in the middle, and if we push the element it should be all the way in the color. So I start with something like this, and we rename it to light yellow, and then drag it onto our element, and the cube we rename it to yellow. And next is we just want to implement a couple of these, so we duplicate it, call it green, green, and move it like, let's say, it's 1 on the white, so we move it like -1.5, and we need a color for that. So I'm going to create a new material, and I call it light green, and I'm going to go here and going for the color like this one, and I drag the green to my object. So you can make as many as you want. We're going to do 4 of them, so we post a video a sec, and everybody is doing his items on the screen. So after you added your 4 elements, we want to add the UI. So we're going for right-click UI and going for a canvas now and panel. And here we click on 2D, and going to see our canvas. It's somewhere here. Here is the canvas, and we want to clip it up there and change the length to 200, or let's say 300, and the height to maybe 60. And in the panel we want to have our text fields, so we go to UI text, and we need two text. One is for the game over and one is for the points. So we call that points and clamp it. The clamp is Shift and Alt, and we put it next into the edge over here. So we click there, and we have our text in the middle, and it should be on the right side. So we always bump on the right side, and we go like 100 and the height of 60, which makes it in the middle here. And of course the color, let's say the text color is something like this, yellow, and we want to best fit in here. So I have to make it a little bit bigger. So let's delete that and put in a 0. And we need another text field, UI text, and we do that Shift Alt on the left side, and the height to 60 also. And this, and best fit, and the color we going for the yellow also, and we just empty that. Let's see if we fit in. Game over. Game over fits in, so that's just good enough. But clean it again then. And then we need, we can rename that to game over. And we need a button, so we go into UI, button, where we want to have that. Oh yeah, down there, okay. Shift Alt and put it down in the middle, and going for 150, and going a little bit up, like, no, up, I said like 20, so we have a little space here between. Call it rename start button. So the text we have to set here, and we go to name it start, middle, best fit, and also we gonna do a color, this one. Okay, let's run it a sec, and we see we got a little problem here. Let's stop that. Go for panel and bring it a little bit down. 20. So looks nice and easy. The next is we have to do is to implement something. If we hit the items here, that we recognize that they are hit it. So we need a little script. We start there, just right click, or just stop the game. Right click and going for C# and call it click button. And we add that to our buttons. So for example, to the red, to the green and to the yellow. So everything has its own script in there. And we open the script. So in our script, what we want to do is, if we hit our button, the color should be changed to the more full color, and if we get rid of or we don't click on the button, it should be going back to our original color. So that brings us to two things we need for sure. It's the public, so we can clip that on the editor, material, and the one I name light matte, and the other is public also, material and normal matte. So let's go for, and then we need two functions. The one is if we click the button, and one is if we lose the button. So we have a private void. We use a mouse down. So that's a function. If we click the button, the Unity recognized that we clicked on that element. So there's a similar for private void. Void on mouse up. So we got two functions here. One is if we press the button and the mouse button, and one if we lose the button. Then we need two functions for the change color. And since we want to enable another function or another script to manipulate that, we're going for public, and I would say it's clicked color, and the other is unclicked color, I would say. So it's public also. Of course, void, I forgot that up there. Unclicked color. So we use a void there. So somehow we want to call this function. If we click the mouse button down, we change the color, and if we go in mouse button up, we change the color back. So one is for sure, we want somewhere to call clicked color, and of course we want to hear unclicked color. And let's see how we can manipulate these color. If we want to manipulate the color, we of course have to manipulate the renderer. So we going not to use the void start, we use the awake for that. And we need to cache our renderer, so we going to have an private renderer, I call it my R, and we have to cache that here, and my renderer is r dot nope, my r is equal to get component renderer, and just to make sure the renderer is enabled, so we say my r dot enabled is equal to true, and so we want to go here and click color, and if we click on the color we want to change the renderer, and it's just easy. It's my r dot and here shared material, and the material is equal to normal map normal, what called it, normal mat or whatever, normal mat I called it, okay. And the same is here. We say my r renderer shared material is equal to light matte. So let's see if that works. We save that and we go in our game and click here, and of course we get an error, or we don't, but we have to set these materials. For yellow, for example, we have to have a light yellow and a yellow for the normal. Then we go to the green, we have a light green and a normal green, and for the red also light red, and the red and blue, we're going for light blue and blue. So if we start the game, it should happen something like, yep, if we click here, the color is changing. Wonderful. So the next part I want to do is give the imagination of the button is really clicked, so we have to change his position a little bit. Going back to the screen, to the script, and we have to do something like this. No, we have to do something different before. We have to remember our position in the world. So we're going here for private vector 3, and we call it my transform position, and we just get that here on the awake function. We get my transform position is equal to transform dot position. So we know where we are in the start, and here on the click color we just say transform dot position is equal to let's see, new vector 3, and it's my transform position dot x. So we don't want to change that. So the next is we want to lower it a little bit. So let's see, I don't know which, but call it -3 dot 3f, and the z position we don't want to manipulate that also. So we're going for my tp dot z. Let's check that out, what we did there. we go. And we see the button is going down a little bit too much for my thinking. So let's, oops, this one. And going to get these and say the unclick, and I think it's a little bit much. I'll set that back to my tp.y and say here it's 2 or something. Click save and go here, start the game again. And we get the imagination of the button is pushed down. So now we need to store something to recognize which button we are. So for example, this button is 0, 1, 2, 3, or whatever it is. And we also need a function to tell everybody else we are pressed, and the logic in the game recognize us as pushed. And for that, oops. So for that, I think the best method to do that is to make an event and a number. So we want to have a public int my number, and then we want to have an event. So we got a public delegate void, and we call the delegate click event, and we want to have an input in there. It's number, so we want to send in the event our number we have on this item, and we gotta have a public event, and we call it click event, or called it click event, and the function we want to invoke is on click. So if we invoke one click, then we have to add in a number, and everybody who is in our list and bound ourselves to our event gets the event with the number. So in this position here, I guess we say oops, on click, and we put in my number, and of course we have to invoke that. So what happens if the button is clicked here, we change the color, and we transform our position in the Y direction, so the imagination of the button is pushed down, and we fire up an event and tell in the event the number what button is pressed. So if 4 buttons are pressed, there are 4 events with the number 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever we defined here in my number. And for startup, we just make sure there's no error. It's my number 99. So that's the basic here. And the next thing we want to do is we have to have a game logic, and we have to have a robot who does the color and to randomize the buttons. So for that we need a new C# script. So we're going to create a C# script and call it robot logic. Robot logic. I have an issue with uppercase there. So, and bind the robot logic to our plane, and we're gonna edit that. So first of all, we need a few variables, and for one we need a list of our buttons. So I call it, or we need for the list, we need to using system.collections.generic, and of course we want to manipulate the UI, so we need to using Unity engine.ui. And the variables we need, the list is a public list. Public list, I call it my buttons, and it's of the class click buttons. Click button, and of course we want to have that list. Next we need how long we want to show the button is pressed, or how long to show the color. So we need a public float, and our, so let's say show time equal to 0.5 and half a second. Oops. And we need a public float pause time, and I would say we call it also a half of a second. And let's say what we need again, or what we need more, is we need a bool, and the bool, we call it robot, and it's false on the beginning, and we need a bool, bool player, and it's also false. And in our start function we have to bind ourselves to the events from our buttons, and for that it's just easy. We're going for a for loop, and the length is from our my buttons. There is the error. My buttons.length, so we go for in y I is equal to 0, and we go as long as I is lesser than my buttons.length. So for example the length is 4, we're going to run 0, 1, 2, and 3, so we run 4 times, and always on the end of the loop we add 1 to that. And then we invoke our messages, our events. So we go on my buttons I dot, and now we go on click, and we add ourselves to that. So it's plus equal, and now we need a function, and the function I would say is void button clicked, and we have an int number in it. Number, oops, not that. So we call button clicked on this point, and the next is we go on and say my buttons and I dot numbers. I called it my numbers. My number is equal to I. So we make sure we are bound to this event, and we make sure we set the number of our button so the button knows which number it is. And we have the button here on clicked, and if the event is fired up, we have a function which is generated then. So that's for the start function, and we need a couple more functions here. I think we need an void game over, and we need an void start, void start game. Oops, not that one, that one. And then we need, let's see, we need the robot itself, I would think. So we need a void robot, and no, the robot shouldn't be an normal void. It should be an EI numerator, sorry. And why should it be an EI numerator? It's because we want to invoke wait for seconds, so we call it private IE number, IE numerator robot, and do we need to do something? No, we don't do it. At first, if the number started, we want to wait like a second before the whole thing is coming up. So we're going for yield return new wait for seconds, and we wait for 1f, which is 1 second. And after that we want to have a random number, and we just produce one with the function random range. So we're going to have let's see, click buttons so my buttons, so we're going for my buttons random dot range is equal is 0 dot my button length and there we want to have the clicked color. Then we want to wait a sec, so we're gonna do another yield, return new, wait 4 seconds, and this time we use the show time, and then we're gonna do so now there's a problem. You see, we want to set the color to unclicked by color, but we don't know the random range number here, so we're gonna have the int, so we need another variable, private integer my random, and here we're gonna say my random is equal to, and we're gonna copy that here out, and say here, of course, my random. And then we want to wait a couple seconds again, so we gonna yield these again and say, what was the name? Pause time. So in this function we wait 1 second, and then we're gonna implement a new color and set the color to the highlighted color, and then back to the normal color. Let's just go one there, but we can't do that because we have to go on start game and call this function. And to call this function, we have to go for start coroutine and going for robot. So if we push the start button, we start the coroutine robot, which is going down here. So we're gonna save that and see in Unity, and we go to our start button and going here on one click, we say okay, going for where is our panel, our plane, sorry, and going to the robot logic and going for start button. It's not there. That means we have to go here and going for public save, back to our button, robot logic, and start game. So let's play that, and we go to start, and there is an error. The error index is out of range. Let's pick that up. My random button lengths. Of course. not stop there. Of course, we have to go in our plane, and we see here my buttons is size of 0, so we have to go 4 and drag in our elements. So we go in, this is the yellow, this is the green, red, and blue. So we go again and start up and going for start. And you saw the green is, or the green again, red, red, green. Okay, that looks like it works. And now we have to make sure we run like an amount of things we want. And we want, for example, in the first level, we'll run this 2 times, in the next level 3 times, 4 times, and so on. So we're gonna put that into a for loop. So for loop, and we're going here not for length, we're going here for level. Of course, we have to define a level here in public, I would say, public int level, and we start with 2. So now this level does not exist, it's public level. So it starts with 0 and runs 1 and 2 times, and in this it stops when it's 1 lesser than the level, and so all is okay. Let's bring that up with Unity, and we're going to start. Push the start button, blue, blue. Start button again, yellow, blue. Okay, that works also. What next is we have to make sure we remember what we pushed here. And for that, let's see, we need a list. And a list of ints. So it's public list of integers, and I call it color list. And here in our robot, we just say color list dot add my random. So that's the right notation. So now we got our basic routines together. We just bring the whole thing together. For that, we need the UI elements, and we need, of course, the public button start button, and we need the public text game over text, and we need a public text score text. And we need a private int score. And we need next to the level private int player level, so which defines on which point the player is. Player level, and that's equal 0. So let's bring on a few things under the start game. For the first is we want to get that out of the start game and put it into our update function. And we just say if robot, which is our variable for that, if the robot we want to start the routine, and we want to say robot is equal to false here. So we just set the variable robot, and the coroutine will be starting. So next in the start game, we set the robot to true. Robot is equals to true, so we have that function again. Then we say our score is equal to true. No, to 0, to true. And then we want to set our player level. Player level is equal to 0. And then we want to say our level and just say we generally start with 2, so it's 2 also. And so the robot starts. These things are gonna set to default, and then we have to get rid of the game over text. So that's just easy. Game over text dot text is 0 or empty, and then we say our score text dot text is equal to score dot toString. And now we have to deactivate our button, and that's real easy. What it is, it's a start button, and that's start button dot interactable is equal to false. And here in the game over, we have to say the game over text dot text is equal to game over and our start button is being interactable to true, so start button dot interactable equal to true, and so that's the two functions. So, and the next is if this is ready with the running, we want to set our player. So we set our player is true. That means our player can start working. So after we set the player to true, we have to make sure our click buttons know that they are active. So we have to change this player to public. Then go to click buttons and say public robot logic my logic, and we go down here and say if my logic dot player, then you can do that. So then we make sure only if the player is or the turn is on the player can do that. Save that, go back to my to the robot logic, and we see how far we are in it now. So let's see, save that and go if we are working. Player level is not used. Okay, that's no big deal. We do that later on. It's 0. We start. The reference is not set to an object. Of course not, because these guys don't know the robot logic. Let's plain. So 71. Of course. In our plane we need to define these buttons, so we go and this is the start button and the game over text and the points text. Oh, that was quite efficient. Doing that again. Start up. Okay, we can use them now in the game, and since we don't set it back, start, we can't use something, and now we can. Okay, that works. Now we have to have the logic for what is happening if the button is clicked. And that's not too hard to do. So for that we go into our button clicked and see if is player, so if we are allowed to do something. And if the player is, we just check the number the player has clicked and the number which is in our color list. So we check if and going for the underscore number is equal to the let's see what was it was the color list, and in the color list we want to check the first item, so we want to check the player level. And if that's true, we want to do something. We want to set the player level plus equal 1. So we just want to highen the number. And the next is we want to do our score plus equal 1. And we want to set our score text. So we're going for score text dot text is equal to score dot toString. So we set our there. So if that's not true, so we got an else tree, and in the else tree we want to go just it's game over. So let's check that out. See if we got everything. So we got hit the start button. It says green, red. It waits for us. We say green, red, and if we hit something else, it's out of range. That's normal. So let's check that again. And we hit start. We get blue, yellow. We hit blue, and we hit this. We got start over, game over, and the start button here. So all is left what we have to do if the thing is what is if the number if the player hits after the player turn is equal to or the player level is equal to the count number, and the count number is the level. So if so let's say player level is equal to level, that means we have the level complete. And if we have to leave a level complete, we have to level plus equal 1. So for the next round, the level is 1 higher. We have to set the player level to 0 again. And we have to set the player to false, and we have to set the robot to true, so it's ready for the next round. So we save that, and going into our game, hit the start button. It's green, red, green, red. So we notice there's a difference in our color list. So we have to make sure that the color list is not generated every time new, and that's just easy. We have to go in here before this, and we have to make sure that the random is only generated if the level is higher than the level before. So we check if, and we go into our color lists. If the color list dot count is smaller than the level, so then we can make sure that if we got a level higher, we have to do these randoms. we're going to go in there, and if that's not the case, we just leave it that way. So again, we go in here, and for the first time we run this list, the level will be higher, so we do that one time, and the next time we don't do that. So we save that, and let's go into the Unity again and start. And we're going here for start, green, blue, green, blue. Something not right there, so we may have an error, so we're gonna stop that again. Let's think about for a sec. So I found the error. Of course, we have to do in these color lists or in these my buttons, not the random, my random var. We have to do the color list.i brackets I. So if we do the my random, it's always the last value from here. So it's of course these. Well, let's check that out. And we go here and start the game. And we put start, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, green, yellow, blue, green, yellow, blue, green, red, yellow, red, and we hit the game over. Nothing happens here because the game is... Oh, there's an error if game over. We have to do something if the game is over. In game over, we have to set player to false, of course. So nothing has happened there. So that's it for our 1 hour, 1 game, 1 tutorial video. My name is Yazil, and I hope you liked it. If you do, hit the like button. If you like it even more, subscribe to my channel. I got more than one interesting video running down there. If you want to have the source code, just go to Patreon and pledge to my course. The source code will be there. So happy night shift, your Yazil.